Good morning, and thank you for coming to this get together. This morning's Dharma talk title is The Illusion of Choice. This is an illusion that we have a choice about anything. That's a very difficult one. Because we tend to go into the conceptual mind about it and try to sort it out, and that's not true. But relatively, it is not true. You do have a choice relatively. It's powerful. So the primary illusion, primary mistaken identity, the primary confusion is to think there is someone. It's because there's a body, mind complex, feeling, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, thinking, remembering, planning. There's a good one, planning. We'll talk about that in about 17 minutes when I get to it. And I don't have a watch. So the illusion of choice. This has been so helpful to me over the years of slowly, over a long, long period of time, of slowly working with this idea of choicelessness. It's been just a constant theme in my own practice. And how can I deeply understand what this is? It looks like we can make a choice because I can take this kotsu. I didn't plan anything. I'm just going to put it up here. Well, that's a choice. We're constantly reaching, touching, smelling, tasting, looking, but there's areas where this starts to come apart. You can't just decide to smell. If something comes up, you have a nose. If it hits your nose, you can't, well, I don't think I'll smell that. Choiceless. That's just one of them. That's just a tiny one. Just like you cannot decide to not think something. I'm sure you've noticed. But the body is so convincing, even though I can reach for this kotsu and pull it down, I cannot decide to not feel of it. It's an illusion that you can even do anything. You have a little bit of leeway there because otherwise, if we didn't have a little bit of choice, reaching here, reaching there, you would see a tiger in the woods 280,000 years ago and wouldn't have a choice. You would have to be eaten. You just wouldn't know what to do. You wouldn't have a choice. So we have a little bit of choice so you can protect that part of the illusion that is a physical organism within the illusion of what? Space, illusion, time. I need to run from there to there and run up that tree that's just the right size around that a tiger can't climb it. Choice, 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 thinking, thinking, processing, processing, processing. We need to do that. We should do that. If we're alive, you're going to need to do that. What happens is out of fear and out of the illusion of there's just someone, we tend to extend that into all kinds of manipulation, which can go to the extreme of running a huge corporation and not really being fair with the people that work for you because you strengthen your ego by being powerful, by being wealthy. You can have millions, billions of dollars and not share with anybody. You just greedy, greedy, greedy. Is that a choice? That's the area I want to talk about. Because even someone in that situation does not have a choice. So therefore, there's no praise or blame. This is a basic teaching that showed up before any of us even got here. There's no praise. Good job, Jim. There's no blame. Bad job, Jim. You certainly screwed up that time. We do that direction. We also do it here. Why did I do that? Oh, I should have known better. Why did I? Why did I? And the why is a question that takes you in a circle that gives you the illusion that you have a choice. You don't have one. And if you get challenged by that, you'll start judging other people's choices. You shouldn't have done it that way. You should have controlled yourself. So there's two ways this shows up in this old mind over here. The first one is conditioned arising, dependent origination, is not selective from the point of view of a thing going this way or going that way. Simply put, very simply put, conditioned arising or pratitya samutpada, traditional teaching that goes back centuries before the time of the Buddha that was there. So what is this saying? Let me see. This is difficult to find words because I have to say, without particularly getting a credential about how wonderful and insightful I am and how aware I am. There's no credential. There isn't anyone here. No one's collecting anything. I have no idea what I'm going to say other than I came up with a talk title, I don't know, yesterday or something like that, and still didn't know what I was going to say, although I can feel it there. I can sense that there. Let's put it this way to break it down into parts so it's easier for me to talk about and convert what I'm looking at. I'm looking at it, not, there's no time I didn't, there's no time that you know what I'm saying? There isn't anything. I go into words and I start to, because I can't, I'm looking at what I cannot say. Many people in the world experience that kind of situation. And if they don't have some kind of mind training, because the intensity of what they see, the reality of what they see, they become musicians or poets or writers or something because they see something. They realize no one's really seeing this. I'm seeing something, and I want to say what this is. T.S. Eliot, Jules Verne, Tchaikovsky. I mean, on and on, just all the creative people in the world. But the Dharma teacher, one who has heard the Buddha's Dharma, or heard the truth, or seen the truth, or smelled, felt, tasted, touched, remembered the truth, may want to say something about it. And if they do, even though they might use books, they might consult scholars, they might even be a scholar. Unlikely, but they could be. Because the Buddhist teachings initially down through the centuries have been looked at because it's such a powerful teaching, and scholars have taken that teaching and then gone this way and that way and this way and that way and tried to explain it, turn it around, look at upside down, inside out, passion, aggression, ignorance, hope, and fear, the 12 links on the chain of existence, the 6 realms, the 3 realms, the Abhidharma Kosha, Bhashya. All of those, you may need to look at all of those. You may need to look at them more than once. You may just need to study them with a group, which I highly recommend. Studying these alone is fine, but you just become either a scholar or you realize it's just really too hard to understand, so you put it aside. Necessary to study it with Sangha. There's a reason there's such a thing as the 3 jewels: Buddha, teacher; Dharma, what's being taught; and Sangha, or community that gets together, as you're doing right now, studying this together. There's nothing wrong with going in the retreat and taking a book with you, or going sit on your couch and pick up a book on Buddhist teachings by any teacher for that matter. It doesn't matter who, just about the Buddha's Dharma and studying that. But discussing that with others is a very, very powerful thing to do. I highly recommend that. So the 2 ways I was getting at that I kind of slipped out of gear there. And that's not choiceless. I don't decide what I'm going to talk about. I have a feeling about it. And then I notice as I sit down, I'm not talking about what I thought about it. I talk about plans don't work. But why do you need a plan? You need a plan. I intend to see what this is. That's a plan. That's it. I intend. I vow to save all beings no matter how they show up, no matter how I'm treated, no matter what. I'm going to do this no matter what. This is the path. The conditional or mundane path is I'm going to get a degree in biology and be a teacher. Good plan, good idea. You can do that, but you'll notice even with that plan, there's all kinds of sidetracks and things that don't work out very well for you. You need to get more money. You suddenly come down with an illness where you can't attend classes. Plans don't work. They're workable and you need them. According to my teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, everything's workable. Anything that shows up, it's workable. You can find a way, see a way, understand a way to work with anything that shows up. But you have to look at it, not look away from it by evaluating it, judging it, blaming, crediting, anything. Don't do anything but look straight at it. Choiceless. I'll break it down this way, as I said I was going to do about 4 or 5 minutes ago. There's the choicelessness that I'm going to talk about with someone who has no mind training at all. They could be a great artist. They could be a genius, but no fundamental mind training, which is what the Buddha talked about 2,500 years ago. And other teachers and other lineages have talked about other spiritual paths altogether. Buddhism does not have a corner on it. It's just a big, powerful movement coming out of that particular teacher. No matter who you are, no matter what your life is about, no matter, you are at the mercy, to use the fancy word there, you're at the mercy of whatever shows up. If you've not examined and found out who you are, that's the other part of choicelessness. I'm going to talk about the choicelessness of those who think they're making choices and the choicelessness of those who realize there's no such thing. And they still, if you saw two of them working in a house and they both came in to work together and they were both of them going to get together and clean the building, might have a conversation. So I'll vacuum. Why don't you dust? Okay, well, I have a sore arm, so why don't I'm saying it's a CCC. It's communicating, cooperating, collaborating between two people. One is completely awake, right to the center of the earth, and the other person is still believes there is an earth, believes there is our feet, believes that this is that, and that's right, and that I'm a certain age and I have a certain mother and father. And we constantly shower ourselves with this to keep that part of the illusion up that is fundamentally true, that nothing occurs, nothing shows up, nothing moves. We cover that up with ideas, conclusions, stories, constant stories. Sometimes it gets so threatening that we have to make up stories about that which we're threatened by. Propaganda, gossip. Not wrong. It's not like right and wrong or extra. We don't need those. That just encourages the polarity and makes it, and we have to punish the bad people and reward the good people. If you're looking for anything at all, anything else, that's illusion. So you get kind of tricked into looking at the Buddha's Dharma, and that's a trick too. You look at it, is this actually a way where I could fundamentally see what this is about, what knowledge is about, what wisdom is about, what an existence is even about, fundamentally, without being trapped by, should I or shouldn't I, or what did they say, and what should I do about him, and should I even talk to that person anymore? Biting down on things that stabilize you in the illusion that look like choice. So let's get back to the beginning. The one who has no mind training is choiceless for them, but the way in which that choicelessness shows up is they are trapped by that which they're not clear about. So therefore, they're trapped by the causality, the conditions that have brought them into this particular lifetime, which that you did not choose this. If you feel like you were somewhere else before you were born and you chose this, I'd sure like to hear from you. It'd be fun to have a talk with you. So please don't hesitate. I won't. But we don't choose even this. So then we get here and we get this kind of a interesting kind of arrogance starting at about age 2. where we start to, and then the society around us, our parents condition that. You can do it. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, instead of actually allowing you to be genuine and live the karma that shows up as you're 3 or 4 or 5 years old. I'm not saying allow someone to run into the street or play with fire. I'm not saying that. You have to protect those people who just got here. But the whole thing's an illusion. We get swamped by the causes and conditions that arise in the mind stream, thinking we can stop this or start that or not feel this way or don't feel that. Well, don't feel like that, Bill. You shouldn't feel that way. As if you have a say so about your feelings. You have no say so about those. If you can control your feelings or control anything, you better look closely because that illusion will trap you even further. And then you've got something you've got to live up to. Well, I used to be able to control that. Why can't I do that? So then what do? We look around for reason, causality. And it isn't that there isn't some, but any causality is not separate from every other causality. And as soon as you look at one, I don't care if it's psychology or astrology or politics or what your mom said or how you were conditioned or what you've been studying, everything that looks like it's here is not separate from anything over there, nor is it the same. That's why it's so difficult. It's not separate, nor is it together. It's an amazing illusion. You can actually see this. You could actually see it. Don't miss your life. Open your eyes. Look. Be aware. Be aware. If you're really aware, you won't think. You don't have to stop thinking. Just be aware. Receive everything that's here. Receive the colors, the shapes, the smells, the tastes, the thoughts, the memories, the emotions. Receive them choicelessly. Are you ready for the next part? So that was the first part. You have no choice, but you think you do. And you're really at the mercy of your karma, your causes, your conditions, your emotions, how you've been trained, what you rejected, what you agreed with, what passion, aggression, ignorance, passion, aggression, ignorance. And it's painful stuff. Life is suffering, as the Buddha said. So I'd like to answer questions on this part of it or the other part. It would be good if you ask questions in those two areas. But first, I want to talk about the next area, and that is one who, a human being, nothing special, no one special, just someone who somehow began to look, whether they had mind training to do it or the karma that came out of the past life just took them and rubbed their nose so deeply in their karma that they just sprung a leak everywhere and just there was no longer a person anymore. There's not been many of those. I don't know any of them personally, but I've heard about a few of them. I can name them if you wish. But most of us need to come into this life and begin to suffer and have confusion and have challenges. And we may turn this way and try this and try that. May go to, and I can go through the whole spectrum from drugs to psychology to therapy to distracting yourself into something you really, really enjoy. Find something you really like and work on that. Plant gardens, plant gardens for your neighbors. Work on those kinds of things. They are very distracting, and they will draw you in because it takes so much work to do that. It takes so much work to get dirt and plant things and try to find out what kind of dirt to use and all of that. It's very distracting. All this time, the illusion is going tick, 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 tick. You're only here so long in the illusion. The body mind is here. This is very temporary. Who you are is not temporary. Your actual identity is not temporary. No ticker there. Nothing at all. It's just this always. When I say always, it's a way of talking about. Another word is a misleading word, but it's about talking about eternity. There is no clock in eternity. It's not a long distance of time. There is no time. Just like in a dream, there's no time. There's an illusion of space in a dream. There's an illusion of time. Being a living being, that's probably as close as you're going to get to what this is about, this illusion. So with one who is awake, and I don't speak as one who's awake, there's plenty of room for questions there when we get to that point. I do not speak as an awakened being, nor do I speak as an unawakened being. The differentiation is what causes traps and what causes the suffering. It's what causes warfare and causes fights over the kitchen table. That's my kitchen table. No, it's not. It's mine. I bought it, but there's my tablecloth over it. Like that means a lot. What if you don't have any legs? You can't hold the tablecloth up. You're welcome. I wanted to keep that image as simple as possible of warfare. But look, whole countries go back and forth, whole nations, whole empowered people go and murder countless people on behalf of what? What is that? That's ego. That's an incredible Rudra, Rudra being just incredible, powerful, solidified, intense. What is the word for that? Therapists use is or psychology sociopathic, just someone who is just has no concern with anybody else's suffering at all. They're the only one with nerve endings. Kind of the opposite of enlightenment, but not because the whole idea of oppositions comes apart. Coming back to one who is also choiceless, but is not choiceless out of the fact that their conditionality is so invisible they can't see that they don't do this. There's no one doing this. There's no one doing this. There's no one there doing any of that. With the person who has realized nothing is happening for that person, but they are able to participate, you could say, even more directly, even more involved in whatever shows up by just receiving it. They're just receive everything. There's no receiver anymore. There's nothing received anymore. They're actually living in the illusion. You might want to talk to one of those beings. You may be one of those beings. Choiceless. You don't make choices. Anything that shows up, you just know what to do next. It's time to vacuum the carpeting. It's not even that you wouldn't even say it's time to, you just do it. You wouldn't even do it. There's no one there. It totally backs up out of the vice grip that conditioned arising seems to have on you in terms of the illusion. And you can't really see what it is because you're caught by it out of hope and fear, being fearful, hoping for something better, hoping something changes, not able to receive things as they are. I wish I could give a better talk on that. I feel like I'm looking at something that I just don't have words for. And that's why I keep encouraging all of you, please spend some time. Spend some time, sit down. You don't have to come here, join me. You don't have to listen to any of my Dharma talks. You don't have to be a Buddhist. But if you have an interest, if you're here, so you have an interest in what I'm saying, say, just see what it is yourself. That's all I'm saying is go within. How do you do that? Sit down, hold still, sit symmetrical. That's the only thing you can say about the body that you have any say-so over, and then receive everything no matter what, without a filter. And you may have to look at the fact you keep filtering things for years, but eventually over time, you realize I've been looking at everything through a filter, my beliefs, my opinions, my judgments, and everything. And you just look at it, you look at it, you don't conclude, you don't exclude, you look at it and the filter comes apart because it's an illusion. And then you see everything that you've been covering up is fundamentally an illusion. So nothing has to be different. Nothing has to change. Why? Nothing happens anyway. Time and space are gone. Sir.
Erlon bowing. How do hope and fear contribute to the illusion?
Simply put, you're just here, you're sitting, and something starts to happen. Instead of receiving what happens, you hope that it'll go away. Or instead of receiving what's happening, you just as it is, you are afraid and you run away. Or you are afraid and you fight back. You join into the three poisons that are the fuel of ego, of that part of the consciousness that is wrong, and it's like a knot in your heart. More?
Erlon bowing. Is fear something like you were talking about as well, like where that's a filter?
It's just like some kind of lattice work. and it can take the shape of any of the poisons: hope, fear, anger, distress. We have words, countless words for it, and science is coming up with even more words for the obstruction in the mind that enforces the original misunderstanding, which is there's a self that could even be afraid. There's nothing is threatened. This doesn't mean if a tiger doesn't comes along, you should run up a tree or hide out somewhere. Of course, it's relatively you should function that way, but you don't take it any further than that and make it into some kind of philosophy of life. You should run away from anything that's scary or kill it.
Everyone bowing. To the one who is awake, does fear take on a more practical, like in that situation where
Two things I can say, and maybe this will be helpful. It can be even more scary because you're no longer defending anything. So it can be more intense, more anger, more frightening, more depressing, more and more and more and more and more. And so, but that just goes through. It's like you're an empty building. Those intense feelings just go through you. It's just like they come in, the wind comes in one window and goes right through and can't find anybody and keeps right on going out the other. Karma is still functioning. The illusion, as long as there's a living being, karma is still coming and going and happening and functioning. It's just that you're sitting in the middle of a cyclone. Everyone else is taken up in that cyclone, and you're not, because there isn't anyone. The identity is just consciousness only. So it's just like the sky doesn't argue with anything. Consciousness argues with nothing. If they're still showing up in a living form, as there is here, this doesn't happen to raccoons that I know of. But it seems to be that humans are born with this. They're all natural Buddhas. It's a very interesting area in the evolution of the illusion or the simulation that this is real and this is going on, and things go up, things go down, things turn black, they turn white, and all the things in between. That's so convincing. People write plays because they make use of the illusion and create their illusion. You watch a movie and you realize it's an illusion, but you're intrigued by it because it has you, even that part of the illusion. It's like watching a movie all the time, not real.
I'm bowing, is ultimate truth unreal too?
Anything you state is unreal. It's just a way of talking about it. There isn't anything else that happens. There's no, when I say nothing else, nothing ever occurred, but now you realize nothing occurs. So there's nothing to accomplish. There's nothing to, everything's an illusion. Enlightenment's an illusion. Ultimate truth, the whole idea of relative and ultimate is just a way of talking about something that's impossible to describe. And the fundamental understanding, open wide for this one, what you're looking at is ultimate truth. But only you have to realize it nothing is separate. The two dualities that are difficult is one is life and death. It looks like they're two different things. That's why we're afraid of death. And the other one is ultimate and relative. You can realize this. If this dumb old person can realize this with very little education, I'm not a scholar. I can't understand the Abhidharma. I can barely understand Dogen. That's why I've been studying him forever and encourage everybody else to study him, because he's able to speak about relative and absolute in the same sentence. Did they have sentences in Japan? In the same sentence.
Chandra bowing. In an enlightened person and an unenlightened person are both living their karma or living out of dependent
But you didn't
origination.
really help me there, but you could have said are not separate. No, they're
That's a
not.
given.
You rascal. Okay, go ahead. They're both living out their karma.
Or they're both subject, so to speak, to dependent origination.
They are.
One, though, the unenlightened person is fighting their
Trapped by it or using it or whatever they're doing. They're using the illusion to get some kind of a gain that's temporary, some kind of relative, I've got it, like $1 million or something, or anything like that. Is they're using the illusion to have some kind of materialistic gain in it. More, if you have it.
Conjure bowing, you say that there is some level of choice. So, but the enlightened person is not making any choices.
Well, they might still do this, or they might still put something back. They're still making, but everyone's doing that. It's just that just goes so far. You have a little bit of say-so there, but the ultimate understanding is there are no choices. Everything is dependent on everything else, or its apparent singularity and its apparent movement in time and space.
Conjure bowing, isn't that even picking up the kotsu dependently
Yes.
arisen? So everything
Fundamentally, everything is choiceless.
in the illusion,
Yes. Yes.
even the choice to train your mind is dependently.
All of it.
And when hope or fear shows up in either one, it's dependently arisen.
Yes. I think something I'd like to offer you. Have you noticed that you might study a teaching? Maybe it's not mine, and maybe it's something the Buddha said. Maybe it's something Trungpa or some other teacher that I've never even heard of said that was interesting to you. Maybe it wasn't even a teacher. Maybe it was a poet or somebody said something that just magnetized you. And you go to share that with somebody else and it's meaningless to them. They don't understand why would you even be interested in that? This is a key. This is a clue to dependent origination and how it works. It's the illusion of personhood. And it goes, there's no time. So therefore, this what happened 1,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago, and the illusion of time is not separate from what's happening right now. If you see it, the work is done. Never have to meditate again. Although you might find yourself meditating a lot. Because that way you are the sky. You're just sitting there. You're not having wonderful, wise thoughts about how helpful you are to everyone, and you're not wondering if people realize what a great bodhisattva you are. You're not going anywhere with it. It's just this.
Conjure bowing. So then what is the difference between watching a movie and for the enlightened person?
Same thing. It's just that in the illusion, that's all that will happen is watching the movie.
So the enlightened person, their life, living their life could be the same thing as watching a movie.
Yeah, yes. They know it's a movie. The one who is living their life and is struggling and fighting and pushing and pulling is convinced they have to do something about it. There's really nothing you can do. But you may have to look at the intention to control, the intention to stop, the intention to do that, and to pushing and pulling and shutting down for quite a while in the context or in the environment or in the container of awareness practice where you sit down, you've decided at some point in your life, you're just going to look at it. You're all through pushing on this, pushing and pulling. You may still do some of that, but you're going to back off on that and just sit still and watch. Have a cup of tea. You're just going to keep it very, very simple. Just observe. Negativity comes up, just observe. Good feelings, loving, kind, appreciative emotions arise, just observe. Don't leave it for what it means or what caused it so you can get more of it. So the don't part of it is very important. Just observe rather than using that as a trigger to go into something else or leave this for something better. The whole improvement thing that the Second Noble Truth talks about. Whatever happens, we want something else. We want change, better, improved, more.
Conjure bowing, is that what the teaching that you're at some point being on the cushion and being off the cushion are not separate?
Yes. Everything, life and death is not separate. Enlightened and deluded is not separate. This is a teaching illusion. It's called co-emergent wisdom. Compassion or wisdom and craziness or insanity or delusion arise together. Co-emergent, they come out. When you see it, nothing even the emerging part is a lie. But we have to teach, we have to say something. So what are we going to do? Sit here and go, well, good luck. No, you say to somebody, the very things you're dividing up are not two. Your life and your death. Death is not something else. It's just a big, that's bigger than that. Really, really big picture of here's my life. Mine's 85 years. Big deal. That's untrue. This has never been born. I'm not saying this body isn't born. These bodies are born. Who you are has not been born. You are not. You're not just a body. So what are you? Find out. I can tell you in 2 words what you are. If you need an identity, not separate. You're not separate from anything anymore. Anything that shows up, that's you. It's called the mirror-like samadhi, not to samadhi, not to the mirror-like samadhi. Everywhere you look, you see yourself. But it's not actually a mirror. It's not something that reflects back. What this is, you see that the very situation, person, tree, or vista, seascape, or waves in the ocean, you're not separate from those. So once you see not to, you know that teaching is meaningless to you because it's obvious, goes without saying, goes without thinking, goes without speaking, goes without feeling. It's just not to. Everything comes to rest in silence and stillness. But if someone comes in front of you and has difficulty or trouble, then you talk to them and you maybe see how they're doing, where they're at. You meet them as much as you can where they are. And if they give you permission, you might encourage them to look closely, which is another way of saying train your mind. Look closely, sit down and look closely at what comes and goes. So you can see that the waves of the mind are not separate from the waves in the ocean, not to particularly get romantic about it, but it's like that. Yeah. Yes.
Parallel bowing is another way of saying everywhere you look, you see yourself, that everything's looking back at you.
That seems to be path quality of it. Even the mirror, like that everywhere you look, you see yourself, that's still path. Eventually that goes away too. You don't see anything. And yet in this situation or this one, you're still talking and chattering away or thinking things and planning things and intending things. You don't have to get rid of something that's not real. You actually can enjoy yourself, not in the conventional nerve-ending pleasure, and something else that's way beyond that. The Buddhists down through the centuries who have realized their true nature, the Buddha, have used relative words to talk about it, but they don't call it happiness, but it is. They don't call it pleasure, but it is. And some call it bliss. And bliss is just another, what is bliss? We don't know. It's just a fundamental understanding there's nothing to fix. All the suffering and all the horror in the world, all the incredible suffering that's going on, you don't go into that and go to war with it, nor do you go to peace with it. Do nothing with it unless you have to. And when I say you have to, this is why I'm suggesting you just look at the relative situation. And if you have to, then you see someone that needs your help, you help them. You don't separate yourself from the illusion because you're such an enlightened being. And you don't also particularly come down in and work with the illusion and look for credit for what you do, or particularly believe when you've been blamed. Because you know that someone's blaming you because they're suffering. And they don't know what else to do, so they found that you're living in such a way that seems crazy or unethical or on and on and on. So this is my chance to get away from this teaching that is just too intense. That kind of medicine does not taste so good. Sure.
Parallel bowing. What does it mean when the teaching says to go beyond Buddha?
I feel that that's an understanding that the Buddha, the enlightened one, the teaching, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and all of the other teachings that the Buddha laid out for us over his 40-some years, We need to use that as a structure. Those are all concepts about it. And even the idea of a Buddha is a concept. Mind is Buddha, like it says on the scroll. Going beyond that is to go beyond, is to see that it helps you see what it is and not get stuck on a belief in that. So you can actually see that you cannot find a location for anything. This is a fundamental teaching. Buddha, it's finger pointing at the moon is one of them. If you see the moon, the finger disappears. All of the teachings disappear if you see the moon. And that may happen the third week you are studying Buddhism, but it won't stay there. It'll just show up and then it's gone. Shows up and then the ego wants to hang on to it because it's like a credential. I think I had some insight there. I was getting some real good insight into that, but can't quite get it anymore. So look at the insight that is being covered up by that grasping. Look at the incredible insight that is being covered out of fear, just too much space, too much openness. Then you're afraid you're going to fall through the space. As someone said, I don't know who it was, Trungpa or someone said, the feeling of traveling on the path is like falling through space. It's just you realize you don't hit. I would go further than that and say, not only that, you realize you are space, so nothing happens. You're falling through space and you're falling through space, and you just realize, oh, there's nothing happening. You are the space. Nothing is threatened. I'm here to encourage you to look at that. What you do is up to you. It's up to you to do it. Go ahead, please.
Shui Wu bowing. What is happening when we have the feeling like we have to do something?
That part of the consciousness has not been looked at. We still believe our thoughts. We believe our emotions. We think they're true. It's not that they're not intense or believable. They're certainly believable, but that's the area where we just need to look at it. This is why it's so important to just receive it. It comes up. We don't want to receive it. We push it away. And what's being said is just let it come in. Let it sweep over you. Nothing is threatened. It's a wonderful understanding, not a feeling. It's a wonderful understanding to realize that everything you've been at war with and fighting with and trying to change, it's unreal. It's an illusion. So therefore, you don't have to do anything with it. And the karma that shows up as you in this lifetime, or you or anyone else, you may still have a lot of things that have to show up in your mind stream, come and go, that may not be comfortable. You can do it. You can receive your life. You don't miss your life. If you're a person who's upset or depressed or moody or whatever, just be that way. Trungpa Rinpoche said it in 2 words: be genuine. It took me many, many years to understand what that meant until I started realizing I was about to say that to someone, because I understood what it meant without any conclusion. My way of saying it is, don't miss your life. Receive it. If you're around me, you will notice it. I receive you. Kind of. Unless I don't. Okay, let me have some more. Is there any on here on the box with the little tiny postage stamp people? Okay, Norberlinka.
Arbolinka bowing. So I'm glad you are giving this talk on choicelessness, because I've been looking at that in relationship to addiction. And I'm wondering about that appearing on a continuum. Like for those with some mind training, the awareness maybe creates enough space so they can see the nature of what's happening. Like you used to use the example of a bonfire and not sticking your hand in there because you finally see that it's a bonfire.
Yes.
So is awareness something that can give us more choicelessness within that illusion, or within our own boundaries of personality and psychology and so on? I don't know if that's a very clear question, Bowie.
the way I will say it here is over time, it's like you slowly wean yourself away from the attachment to items and things. They start to, not because you do anything with it, just because you look at it, you're respectful to what arises as a feeling and emotion, but you don't push it down. You don't add to it. You don't do anything with it. You just receive it through anything, through any sense fields, through emotions or feelings, you just receive it. And in this way, over time, in the illusion of time, because that's what we're working with, we're immersed. Consciousness is brought together in a human form and immersed in the illusion of time, life on earth, so to speak. We go around day after day after day, month after month, year after year. And quite often, most human beings get caught up in the illusion. And then that part of the illusion that they thought was so real themselves, the body, goes back into the elements. And the consciousness, it will continue, and it may continue, may not. It may just, it's hard to know exactly what happens, but more than likely something continues there and possibly comes up and is reborn, not as that same person, but just as consciousness doing what consciousness always does, finds its own form. And it will continue to find forms until it finds the truth. And what is the truth? Consciousness only. It's possible for you to do that yourself. So coming back to what seems to be your inquiry is just watch it, just observe it. And even if it's an addiction, just look at the addiction. Some teachings about addiction talk about recovering from it. This is just a misunderstanding. I think the intention is good. I think people really want to help people who are addicted or want to help others, but it's not that you can't stop being the activity of being addicted, that you just don't use that drug or have that activity. Sure, you can do that the rest of your life. You can accomplish that. But this does not come to an end because it has not started. Sorry if that seems like an obscure statement. So that kind of attachment to addiction will continue. You can cover it up for 50 years. And you can hang out with your homies and compliment each other on how you're no longer addicted, you no longer use. But the person who's actually using and looking at it may really be able to understand deeply what that is. That's when it becomes a spiritual path instead of just being attached to some kind of activity or chemical or whatever it may be. I'm not encouraging people to go out and do anything. I'm just saying if you're caught in that kind of a trap of activity, even if it's addicted to negative thoughts, negative emotions, negative feelings, depression is just nothing but addiction. And that addiction is to a self that needs something else. Second noble truth. Please look at it. Take me further in that, Narbalinka, if you haven't.
Narbalinka bowing. I'm looking at, in particular, people who have very serious addictions.
Yes.
That they have very little chance of freeing themselves from it because of any
Yes.
change in their brain and so on.
Well said.
Is there an awareness? Can an awareness practice? I guess that's a difficult question.
You should ask it anyway. Yeah, please don't hesitate.
Yeah, I'm thinking about your addiction awareness book, and can that kind of practice loosen up that sort of consciousness so that they have a chance at some relative freedom, at least? Bowie?
I feel anything like that is possible in the relativity of it. To use the image of some people, some situations of a particular person's karma or whatever, maybe too much momentum behind that for any kind of a sitting still and looking at a situation to even be viable or workable for them at all. But you're in a situation where you're listening to someone that is, for lack of a better word, promoting this. Go within. Find out who you are. Don't leave your identity up to your conditioning, your emotion, your family, your culture. Find out who you are fundamentally. And if in the midst of that you happen to be struggling or having a great deal of difficulty with an addiction, then just include the addiction. Don't necessarily try to end it. Work with it in a Work with it in a way that you would a small child. Put limits on that. I'm not going to go into some kind of protocol for it, but it's like that. Put some limits. That's why you have forums. Use the forums. So have more of an interest in seeing what it is rather than how to control it. Because you really, another talk here I can give, or probably have given 10 of them, you don't have control of anything. If you think you do, it's very nature of confusion, addiction, samsara, and the cause of suffering is to think you can control something, yourself or anyone else. Unreal.
Verbal bowing. So when we think we should be doing something, we should be doing something else, is that the whole right and wrong thing, is that also related to choicelessness and addiction?
Yes. Isn't it irritating to have it just you're doing something and then that comes up in the mind, well, I should have. If you look at it enough, you see there's something very fishy about that. I should have done this and I shouldn't have done that. When you actually did that, I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going the other way and try to make it even more concrete in the area of the simulation that, well, I couldn't help but do that. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about awareness, where nothing occurs. You can actually do this. The closest that you can come to that in consciousness, unless you're awakened, then nothing happens. But if you're not awakened, if you're still on the path, you're still trying to understand what this teaching is about, then the ego part of the consciousness will start to feel lonely, like a failure, sad feelings, depression. This is the path. I'm not encouraging nihilism, because to do it as a blanket teaching is not good. The closest the Buddha came to that I know of was saying life is suffering. That's pretty blanket, isn't it? Life is suffering. He didn't say life is sometimes suffering. No, life is suffering. Please look closely. This is not nihilism. It's the truth. You can do that. You can do that. You can actually, the other word would be, you can transcend this world by seeing that it's unreal and seeing there never was a person. There never was a person here or a person there. You can do that. Should you do that? I don't know. You should do that. You shouldn't do that. You should join some other organization where they're more reasonable instead of listening to me.
You.
Jen, go ahead.
Jen Bowing. In trying to work with intention recently, I realized I'm thinking of the difference between it and like volition. Volition, I feel like, has more of an end goal to it. Intention feels a little bit more open as I'm understanding it. And I find it hard to hold on to the intention because it's not attached to something at the other end as much. If that is even the right, I don't know if I'm doing it right. How do I work with intention, I guess, is the question.
Very good question. And I'm going to help you with that. And as much as I can, the way I work with it myself is return to it. Return, don't maintain a vow, don't maintain anything. Especially when it comes to something like the spiritual path or something that has to do with your mind stream, your emotions, your feelings, and how things are going for you day to day. Of course, you have the intention to go to work because the causes and conditions, the structure of the illusion is so intense that you have to go to work. Your employees are, in your situation, your employees are counting on you and you have a business. Other people have to do this, have to do that. It's a relative structure in the illusion that's very convincing. But when we work with something as insubstantial as something like the intention, I intend to see what this is, and I'm going to sit down, hold still, and look at the most simple situation in this illusion, this simulation, and watch what it does until, another word, relative word, until I see what it is truly, where I totally understand it. I don't need any proof. I don't need anyone patting me on the back, and anyone that says otherwise, you're respectful of them. You realize they're not looking at what you're looking at. They don't like banana cream pie, but you do. It's kind of that kind of ordinariness to it. You see it, they don't, so you have to work with them. They're playing poker, probably have to play poker. You're not playing any games. That's not comfortable for somebody who's used to having relative things happening. Then you come along and you don't do any of that, they start to get upset, especially if you not playing your part of the duality causes them to see there isn't anything but them. Not comfortable. Just return to it. Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you. So returning to it seems to imply a choice to return.
Yeah, it's a choice, but it's not real. It's not it's choiceless. It really is choiceless. You can't, if you or me or anyone else, if we could choose to do other than what we've been doing, we would be doing it. You can't. Everything you're doing is exactly what you need to be doing. There is no such thing as choice. That's why it's choiceless. Everything is conditional. If someone who is still working on the path, or maybe hasn't entered the path, and is just working at at Walmart or whatever, and just functioning in a relative way, feeding their family, it's a conditional situation. They're at the mercy of the causes and conditions, how they were treated, who they are, their intelligence level, and their family and responsibilities they have, and their abilities to do the job really well. Maybe in some areas make a lot of money. There's just so many causes and conditions showing up there. So in your situation or my situation, we just the intention to see what this is. That's the path. So you're not leaving all that behind. You still go to work, but you realize the intention to go to work is a different kind of form to it. It's more of something like that's what something I'm doing. That all the reminders of it are there. Whereas the intention to see the truth, or the intention to do something that doesn't have any particular outcome to it, like sitting meditation. Initially has some outcomes to it, but eventually it kind of wears out, and you're kind of doing something that feels useless to ego. Do it anyway. More, Jen?
Jen Bowing, I guess I'm seeing now the forms as a sort of guardrail to help me return to intention. And then once I'm sitting, intention is there, but it may come and go. But maybe I can just rely on the forms, as I guess I have been doing, to help establish intention.
I think so. Just we have form. You're already practicing. You've been practicing for years. You just continue. And the thing I emphasize quite a bit is, as much as you can, sit still. Find a time to sit still. If it's 2 minutes, if it's 2 days, find some time to sit still and do nothing but watch, and just watch. And if you add on to it, then just watch that you're adding on. There's nothing to control, nothing to correct, nothing to fix, but there's something to see. And it takes a while to see through this whole matrix of confusion and otherness and conclusions and ideas. It takes a while looking at that before it will fall apart. If you try to go into it and try to separate it, figure it out, analyze it, not that you couldn't accomplish something, you'll probably become a scholar. You start working with fiddling with it in that way. When I say fiddle, I don't mean to be disrespectful. Scholar, Nagarjuna was a great scholar. So I don't think there's too many scholars who are awakened. Thank you. Is there a further question out there before we close? Yes.
Milk Bowing, a question from Scott in New Zealand. How accurate would it be to say we have free will but not free action?
That gives me the willies. Oh. Sorry, Scott. So those are very definite kinds of concepts, free will, but free will is, I'm not going to say, oh, I don't believe in free will. I don't mean that. I just mean that there isn't anyone. There's no solid being. So it's even more more foundational than just do we have free will, or was it the other one was action?
Yes.
The action part of it. The action part of it is already out into, like, we think about something, we don't do it. We think about something, we don't do it. But then we think about something else and we start to do what we were thinking about. So it's just a different level of the illusion. The illusion starts out in the mind stream. We usually don't do something without thinking about it first until you've realized your true nature. Then you're going to be doing all kinds of things without thinking about it because you're not separate from everything. So therefore, you're functioning with everything. It's like you're dancing. And in my situation, I certainly don't feel like I'm dancing. My body is not particularly in the dancing zone these days, these decades. But it's like that. It's like you just go with it, but you don't tell yourself, I have to just go with everything. You don't, there's no instruction anymore. But at one point, there was some instruction to sit down, hold still, receive what this is, see what it is, see what this is yourself. So coming back to free will, um, I would have to say that there's a different understanding there happening altogether. What you could do, Scott, is take a look at what you really want to know or write it down. Ask me next time or whatever. Send me a text or an email or something. I'd be happy to talk to you more about that if you wish. But the nature of the question that you're asking presumes some kind of a conclusion behind those two statements, the way you're using those two statements. I can't, I'd have to join with your understanding of those statements. And my understanding of those two concepts of some kind of activity and some kind of just free will situation is, it's just different than that. I could say those are the same thing, but I don't think that's going to help you.
Yoke Bowing question from Ath in the UK.
Yeah.
Aren't sitting down and holding still clear choices? Isn't being symmetrical also a choice? Thank you.
Well, yes, I thought I covered that. I'm not saying you don't make choices. You make choices, but they're just not real. They're dependently risen. The Buddha used this. The Buddha came in, it was a setup. He came in and said, he didn't look around like I'm doing. He said, life is suffering. And then he said, the cause of suffering is desire or wanting something else. And then he said, there is a cessation to that. He didn't look like this, though. He was talking to a bunch of teenagers. What was that fourth one he said? I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. The last one he said is there's a path to see this. And so that's when he talked about Shila Samadhi and Prajna, or discipline, meditation, wisdom. There's a way of seeing fundamentally what that is. What was the question?
Aren't sitting down, holding still, clear choices, isn't being symmetrical also a choice?
Yes. Yes.
Yoke Bowing. What's the difference between wishing and intention?
Wishing would be, or hoping, another area of that is hoping for a result. Whereas intending, or the intention to see the truth, if you do that, you're going to have to look past what you think is the truth into the darkness, just using a relative idea. You could say, well, why wouldn't I look into the sunlight? Well, go ahead. It's just that that will blind you and you'll have sore eyes. Just look into what you, not knowing is, you could say, is the image there would be more like looking into darkness or looking between things. You can't really see what it is. Or the intention to do that. So put yourself in a situation that you have the most natural openness using the body. Sit down. You have all these sense organs that are just receivers. Ears don't produce sounds. Tongue doesn't produce tastes. Eyes don't produce sights. Mind doesn't produce thoughts. Just looks like it. That's why it fools us. Sit down, hold still. Observe. watch what occurs until you see that it's not real. All of your thoughts, all of your pushing, pulling, shutting down, light and dark, all of those polarities are not true, nor are they false. That's why it's so hard, because it's the duality tags around with you. And anytime you take anything, the opposite shows up. It's the nature of the illusion. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Sokuzan bowing. How is choicelessness different than fate?
Choicelessness. Well, let's start with fate. Fate means that whatever happens, well, it had to happen. You're fated to have that happen. Whereas choicelessness, whether it's in the realm of the confused person, things are just coming and going and they look random, or they look like, oh, this shouldn't happen, or that should have happened. I should have stopped this and controlled that. So it's not exactly fate. You're trying to, you might have a fated feeling about it, but you still have this feeling that you can somehow get a handle on things and control things and be better and clean things up. And why doesn't your son have trained himself? Why is he acting so crazy when you're doing fine and he's this? Not your son, but anybody's offspring. And then where are we at with that? So the part that the fated part is just that just means that things are set up in such a way that it's just not an open dimension. It's things are set up, and that's how it's going to happen. And the pieces and parts of the illusion that are coming up are combined with, not separate from, all of the activity of the elbows of ego that are that's included too. Nothing is excluded. It's just that what those elbows and the ego are about is trying to get something for that particular elbow holder and get it this way. When actually they're functioning in such a way that all the things they're poking into, those are acting in other ways that may not produce the results this particular ego wanted, because they're doing it out of violence and out of aggression. Nothing is separate from anything else. So to come back and say choiceless and fate, I would say the choicelessness, it's an incredible labyrinth of otherness that's showing up in the illusion of all kinds of items that are coming this way, bumping into each other. Like everything has an elbow that's pushing it, but there's no agenda there because there's no separate being. There's just consciousness having a good time. The reason I think some teachers, not just this one, talk about this and say, try to talk about the positive part of it, is it seems that way, but this isn't to cover up the incredible suffering. You can only see that this is completely an open dimension of being by actually including, or in other words, receiving the suffering. Because when you look into the darkness, you're going to see suffering. You want to go back into discussing fate and choicelessness some more?
Thank you.
Yes.
Erlon bowing.
So hang on a minute. James, I'll take one question from you in just a second. Let me take this one for Erlon, then I'll come back to you, and yours can be the last question.
Erlon bowing. Could the Buddha have also included life as bliss?
Yeah, but he wouldn't have an audience. He might have. Some hippie, he probably taught very individual. He had a basic teaching he taught, and then on the individual level, if he, as a true teacher, which he was, he would have to meet each person where they were at. So that may have been some kind of a teaching he might have given to people individually. Each person's karma is so incredibly different. Just people look different, act different, sound different everything. The differentiation helps us to assume or conclude that this is not an illusion. This is real. Some people are really nice and some people are terrible, etc. Or go ahead, James.
James Bowling. When somebody else tries to decide your fate and it's unbearable, is suicide a choice, or is it something forced upon the person?
So I would come back and say that, someone who decides in some way, using the word decision, or decides to make a choice, someone who does that, it's just extreme confusion and terror and fear and pain. They're just experiencing pain. The causes and conditions that are unseen that lead up to someone, or some situation happening where someone ends their life, or it's not that we can't do something about it. And if you are in a situation like that or know someone like that, you should do everything you can to help them. But be sure that you don't meddle with them too much. Try to listen as much as possible rather than make too many suggestions. And where you were going at with the question, I'm not sure. Is there something, one fundamental thing you want to know that I can respond to in a way that might be helpful?
There are situations where it's murder with extra steps to make someone commit suicide, but who's the one making the choice there? Is it the person
So
encouraging it
I
or
have
the
to
person
go.
doing it?
I have to go back to what I was originally talking about. There's no such thing as choice. It's everything is choiceless. Everything is dependent. There isn't, and that you have to see that here. Don't believe anything I say, but look at the way I'm presenting this. What's in this for me? Why would I say this? There's no reason for me to say this. I'm not. I'm not getting. I'm not getting ahead, making money. I'm not famous. In fact, I might be more infamous.
Okay.
I
You
certainly
mentioned
don't.
Nargacuna earlier. Does this
Regarding,
relate to his talk about essences and choices?
well, I can't go into that specifically, but his basic teaching that I use quite often is the fourfold uh, negation. Not
Negate.
this, not this, not that, not both, not neither. I mean, you can't find a choice in there anyway. It's not this, it's not that, and it's not both, and it's not neither. This is a fundamental teaching on non-duality. There are not two things anywhere, nor is there one. If you don't understand that, you'll continue to, not just you, but any of us will continue to go in circles trying to stop our difficulty and promote our relative pleasure, happiness. So why would I sit up here? What's your projection? Everyone has a projection. Why would Sokuzan up here? Because he's likes to be admired or likes to have all these people listen to him. What's this about? What is my motivation to do this? I can tell you in couple words what it is. I know what it is. I just can't explain what that is. I can give you a name. I don't know what it is, what it means, where it came from, or what it's about. Do you? What is it?
To go within.
Good. Sounds good to me. Go within.